The Galactic Concord had lasted for 12,000 years. It was a union of hundreds of species from thousands of worlds, and they had built something beautiful together. They had cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants. They had stations that circled dead stars. They had peace. They had peace because they had never needed war. The species of the Concord were gentle creatures. They ate plants and fungi, and the strange growths that appeared on asteroid surfaces. They had evolved on safe worlds where the biggest danger was a storm or a cold winter. They had never developed claws or fangs or the instinct to hunt. Why would they? The universe had been kind to them. Ambassador Kielveth of the Theron stood in the grand chamber and watched her world die on the holographic display. Her species looked like tall, thin insects with soft blue shells and long antennae that could sense emotions. Right now, every antenna in the room was pressed flat against every head. The emotion in the chamber was pure terror. Sector 7 is gone, the technician announced. His voice was shaking. The harvesters have consumed the last 3 colonies. No survivors. Kielveth closed her eyes. Sector 7 had contained 40 billion people. Families, children, schools and hospitals, and markets where people had laughed and traded and lived their small, precious lives. All gone. Eaten by the machines that no one knew where the harvesters came from. They had appeared at the edge of the galaxy 6 years ago, and they had not stopped since. They were machines, but not like any machines the Concord had ever built. They were alive in some terrible way. They thought. They planned. They hatched and they ate everything. They would arrive at a world and descend like metal locusts. They stripped the soil. They drank the oceans. They pulled the minerals from the ground and the gases from the air. When they left, there was nothing remaining but dead rock floating in space. Not even bacteria survived. The Concord had tried everything. They had sent diplomats, but the harvesters did not respond to communication. They had offered tribute, but the harvesters took the tribute and kept coming. They had sent their defense fleets, but those fleets had been built for ceremony and light police work. They shattered against the harvester armada like eggs thrown at a stone wall. How long? Elder Morvax asked. He was a gatherer, an ancient species that looked like giant turtles with moss growing on their shells. His voice was tired. He had seen too much death in the past 6 years. 18 cycles, the technician said. Maybe less. They will reach the core worlds in 18 cycles. The core worlds. The heart of the Concord. 100 billion people. The greatest libraries. The oldest temples. Everything that mattered. Kielveth felt her legs weaken. She gripped the podium to stay standing. There must be something we have not tried. Some weapon? Some strategy. Some ally we have overlooked. The chamber was silent. Every option had been discussed 1,000 times. Every possibility had been explored and found wanting. They were herbivores. They were prey animals who had built a civilization. They had never learned to fight because they had never needed to fight. And now something had come that wanted to eat them, and they had no idea how to stop it. Elder Morvax spoke into the silence. There is one thing we have not tried. Every head turned toward him. His ancient eyes were distant, lost in memory. 300 years ago, our exploration vessels discovered a world on the galaxy's western edge. A small blue planet orbiting an average yellow star. We sent probes. We observed. And then we placed a quarantine beacon around the entire system and never went back. Earth, someone whispered. The word spread through the chamber like a disease. The Death World, another voice added. Kielveth felt her antenna curl with instinctive fear. She had read the reports. Every diplomat had read the reports. Earth was a nightmare given physical form. The planet itself seemed designed to kill. Its star blasted the surface with radiation. The ground shook and split open without warning. The weather could shift from calm to deadly in minutes. The water was filled with things that had too many teeth. The land was prowled by creatures that existed only to hunt and kill and eat. And somehow, impossibly, a sentient species had evolved there. Not just survived, but thrived. They had crawled out of the mud and looked at a world that wanted them dead. And they had refused to die. They were called humans. The report said they had domesticated wolves. Not killed them. Not driven them away. They had taken one of their planet's deadliest predators and turned it into a companion. They had looked at fire, which burned and destroyed, and decided to hold it in their hands. They had built cities in frozen wastelands and burning deserts and on the sides of mountains that could erupt at any moment. They were predators themselves. Their eyes faced forward like all hunting species. They had teeth designed for tearing meat. They had spent their entire history fighting and killing. Sometimes each other, sometimes the creatures around them. Always something. The Concorde had taken one look at them and felt the ancient terror that all prey animals feel when they see a predator. They had marked the system with warning beacons and fled. "You cannot be serious," Kielveth said. "They are monsters. Their entire psychology is built around violence and dominance and territorial aggression. If we contact them, if we bring them into our space, they might be worse than the harvesters." "Might be," Elder Morvax agreed. "But the harvesters are certain death. These humans are only possible death. And there is something else in the reports, Ambassador. Something we chose not to think about because it frightened us." He pulled up an old file. Images appeared on the display. Humans gathered in groups, touching each other, making strange sounds with their mouths. Humans carrying their young on their backs. Humans rushing into burning buildings to save strangers. "They form bonds," Morvax said. "Strong bonds. They protect their families with insane ferocity. They have been known to die for complete strangers. They have a concept they call heroism, which means risking your own life to save others." He paused. "They are predators, yes, but they are also protectors. The question is whether we can make them see us as something worth protecting." The chamber erupted into argument. Half the representatives wanted nothing to do with the humans. The other half saw no other choice. The debate lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, the vote was close. By a margin of 7 votes, the Concorde decided to send a message to Earth. Kielveth was chosen to compose it. She sat alone in her quarters, staring at a blank screen, trying to find words that would convince monsters to save them. She thought about the children on the worlds that had already fallen. She thought about the children on the worlds that would fall next. She began to type. "To the beings of Earth, we have watched you from afar. We have feared you. We have avoided you. We were wrong. We are facing an enemy we cannot defeat. They are coming to kill us all, every species, every world, every child. We have no warriors. We have no weapons. We have only hope, and we are sending that hope to you. Please, if there is any mercy in your hearts, any compassion in your souls, help us. Save us. We will give you anything. We will do anything. Just please, please do not let our children die." She sent the message, and then she waited, somewhere in the vast darkness between stars. The signal raced toward a small blue world where the deadliest creatures in the galaxy went about their daily lives, not knowing that the universe was about to call upon them, not knowing that they were about to become gods. Captain Amara Okonkwo was eating breakfast when the world changed. She was sitting in the cafeteria of the United Earth Space Command headquarters, drinking her 3rd cup of coffee and reading reports about a satellite malfunction, when her communicator started screaming, not beeping, screaming. the emergency tone that meant something impossible had happened. 20 minutes later, she was standing in a room full of the most powerful people on Earth, and all of them were staring at a holographic display that showed a message from the stars. The translation was rough. The alien language did not match human thought patterns well, but the meaning was clear enough. Someone out there was dying. Someone out there was begging for help. Someone out there had nowhere else to turn. "They knew about us," General Chun said. His voice was flat, angry. "For 300 years, they knew we existed. They put up warning beacons around our solar system like we were a disease. And now they come crawling to us because they are afraid. Can you blame them?" Dr. Hassan asked. She was the head of xenobiology, and she had spent her entire career studying the theoretical biology of alien life. Now she was looking at actual alien communications, and her hands were trembling. "Look at us from their perspective. We are predators. Our entire evolutionary history is written in blood. We ate our way to the top of our food chain. We probably seem like monsters to them." "We are not monsters," Okonkwo said quietly. "No," Hassan agreed. But they did not know that. They saw our teeth and our forward-facing eyes in our history of war, and they ran. It is what prey animals do. The room fell silent. On the display, the message played again. The alien creature, thin and fragile-looking, with antennae that trembled as it spoke. Its voice was translated into flat, mechanical English, but somehow the fear still came through. The desperation. The hope. "We have no warriors. We have no weapons. We have only hope." Okonkwo thought about that. A civilization that had never needed to develop warriors. A people so gentle, so peaceful, that the very concept of organized violence was foreign to them. And now something terrible had found them, and they had no way to protect themselves. Thought it was like watching children face a wolf. "What do we know about these harvesters?" she asked. General Chun pulled up the data that had been included with the message. Images appeared. Ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built. Surfaces that seemed to move and shift. Energy signatures that did not match any known technology. "They are machines," Chun said. "Or something like machines. They consume everything. Planets, moons, asteroid belts. They strip worlds down to the core and move on. The aliens have been fighting them for 6 years. They have lost over 200 worlds. 200 worlds, someone repeated. The number was too big to really understand. Billions of lives. Trillions. All gone. Can we even help them?" Another voice asked. "We have barely left our own solar system. We do not have faster-than-light travel. We do not have energy weapons. We are centuries behind them technologically." Dr. Hassan was studying the technical data with wide eyes. "Actually," she said slowly, "we might be able to catch up faster than you think." They included specifications for their communication technology. "The basic principles are not that different from what we have theorized. If we reverse engineer this, we could have FTL travel within months. Maybe weeks. And weapons?" Chun asked. "That is where it gets interesting." Azan pulled up another file. "Their weapons are designed for precision. Minimal damage. They were built by species that never wanted to hurt anyone. Our weapons." She paused. "Our weapons are designed to destroy. To kill. To break things so completely they can never threaten us again. We have been building better ways to kill for our entire history. Spears, swords, guns, bombs. We are very, very good at it." The room was silent again. It was a strange thing to realize. Humanity's greatest skill, the thing that set them apart from every other species in the galaxy, was their talent for violence. Their ability to look at any situation and figure out the best way to make something die. Okonkwo made her decision. "We helped them." Heads turned. Chun frowned. Captain, we need to discuss this. The risks are enormous. We would be exposing ourselves to unknown dangers. We would be entering a war we do not fully understand. And these aliens, they abandoned us. They marked us as dangerous and left us alone for 3 centuries. Yes, Okonkwo agreed. They were afraid of us. They were wrong to be afraid, but I understand why they were. And now they are facing something that is going to kill them all. And they have swallowed their fear and reached out to the monsters they were hiding from. She stood straighter. That takes courage. That takes desperation. They are asking us to save their children, General. Are we really going to say no? The debate lasted for 2 days. Politicians argued. Military leaders calculated risks. Scientists ran simulations. In the end, the decision was made by the people of Earth themselves. The message was released to the public, and the response was overwhelming. Save them. Help them. We cannot let children die just because their parents were afraid of us. Humanity began to build. The shipyards that had been slowly constructing exploration vessels were converted overnight. Engineers who had been designing peaceful research stations started designing weapons platforms. Soldiers who had been training for peacekeeping missions started training for war. It took 8 months. 8 months of frantic work, of sleepless nights, of pushing every limit humanity had ever set for itself. They took alien technology and mixed it with human engineering. They built ships that ran hotter than any sane species would allow. They created weapons that would have given the peaceful Concord nightmares. When the first human fleet was ready, Captain Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the flagship and looked at her crew. They were young. They were scared. They were determined. We are going to war, she told them. Not for territory. Not for resources. Not for revenge. We are going to war because someone asked for help, and we are the only ones who can give it. She paused. Our ancestors were hunters. They chased prey across endless plains. They fought predators with nothing but sticks and stones. They never gave up. They never backed down. That is who we are. That is what we do. She turned to face the view screen where the stars waited. Let us go show the galaxy what humans are made of. The fleet jumped. Space twisted around them, folded in ways that human minds could barely comprehend. And when it unfolded again, they were somewhere else. Somewhere far from home. Somewhere where scared creatures were waiting for salvation. When the human ships appeared in Concord space, every sensor in the region went insane. The energy readings were impossible. The heat signatures were wrong. The ships were running at levels that should have caused immediate system failure. But somehow they held together. Ambassador Kielveth was on Concord Station Prime when the humans arrived. She watched their ships approach, and she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope, but also fear. Because the ships that were coming to save them looked like weapons. They moved like hunters. And the beings inside them, she knew, were predators wearing the masks of friends. She would have to trust that the masks were real. She went to meet them and prayed that she had not just invited death to save them from death. The planet was called Vareth 4, and it had been dying for 3 weeks. The harvesters had arrived with 200 ships. They had destroyed the defense force in less than an hour. Now they sat in orbit like metal vultures, sending down machines to strip the world of everything useful. 12 million people were still alive on the surface. They hid in caves and bunkers and the ruins of their cities. They watched the sky and waited to die. Admiral Okonkwo looked at the tactical display and felt her jaw tighten. 200 enemy ships. Her fleet had 32. The mathematics were not good. Admiral, her tactical officer said, the enemy formation is standard. They are not expecting serious resistance. Their point defense is minimal, and their ships are spread out to maximize resource collection. They think this is just another harvest, Okonkwo murmured. They've never met anything that fights back. Not really. She turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to all ships. Channel open, Admiral. All vessels, this is Okonkwo. In a few minutes, we are going to engage an enemy that has never been defeated. An enemy that has destroyed hundreds of worlds and killed trillions of innocent people. They think they are unstoppable. They think we are just more prey. She paused. They are wrong. We are not prey. We are the thing that prey calls when it wants to survive. We are hunters. We are wolves. And today, we are going to teach these machines what it means to bleed. She took a breath. Weapons free. Show them what we are. The human fleet attacked Dot. It was not like any battle the Concorde had ever seen. The observation ships that hung at the edge of the system, recording everything, could not understand what they were watching. Human ships did not hold formation. They scattered like leaves in a wind, each vessel accelerating at speeds that should have killed everyone inside. The harvesters tried to respond. Their weapon systems came online. Their ships began to move toward each other, trying to form defensive clusters. They were too slow. The first human missiles hit before the harvesters finished their turn. They were not like Concorde missiles, which were designed to deliver a single clean burst of energy. Human missiles were designed to kill. They burrowed into enemy hulls. They detected weak points and adjusted their trajectory. When they exploded, they sent fragments in patterns designed to maximize damage. 17 harvester ships died in the first 30 seconds. The humans kept coming. They did not slow down. They did not wait to see if their attacks had worked. Each captain made decisions on their own, adapting to the battle faster than any central command could manage. When one approach failed, they tried another. When a weapon did not work, they found a different weapon. The harvesters had never fought anything like this. Their previous opponents had been careful, precise, predictable. They had used standard tactics from standard formations and died in standard ways. Humans did not fight by the rules. Humans made up new rules as they went. One human destroyer, its engines damaged, turned directly toward a harvester command ship. The Concorde observers thought the captain was trying to retreat. Then they realized the human ship was accelerating. It slammed into the harvester vessel at full speed, both ships vanishing in a ball of fire that the observers could not understand. The human captain had killed himself to kill the enemy. He had chosen to die, just to take his opponent with him. But for humans, this was not strange at all. This was just what you did when the Fonga did when the Pervev situation called for it. Then came the boarding parties. The Concorde observers watched in horror as human shuttles launched toward crippled harvester ships. Small teams of soldiers in armored suits cut through airlocks and entered enemy vessels. This was insane. The harvesters were larger than humans. Their ships were filled with automated defenses. Going inside was suicide, except it was not. The Marines moved through zero gravity like they had been born in it. They used the environment to their advantage, bouncing off walls, using cover, striking from unexpected angles. When they encountered harvester drones, they did not run. They fought. One recording showed a Marine sergeant named Rodriguez. Her arm was broken. Her suit was leaking atmosphere. A harvester drone twice her size was coming toward her, its cutting arms raised to kill. She did not retreat. She grabbed a piece of debris, used her one good arm to swing it at the drone sensor cluster, and kept hitting until the machine stopped moving. Then she sealed her suit with emergency foam and kept advancing. When asked about it later, she shrugged. "It was in my way," she said. "So I moved it." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 112 harvester ships were destroyed. 43 were captured. The remaining 45 fled. They broadcast a signal as they ran. something that the translation computers struggled to interpret. The closest translation was, "Warning. New predator. Avoid." Admiral Okonkwo sat in her command chair and looked at the final reports. 8 human ships lost. 647 dead. Good people. Heroes. She would mourn them later. Right now, there was work to do. "Signal the ground," she ordered. "Tell them the fleet in orbit has been destroyed. Tell them rescue ships are coming. Tell them—" She paused. "Tell them Earth heard their prayers." On the surface of Vareth 4, 12 million people looked up at the sky. For 3 weeks, they had watched harvester machines descend like metal rain. Now they saw something else. Bright flashes of light where the enemy ships had been. And then, slowly, new shapes appearing. Different shapes. Ships that did not look like harvesters. The first human shuttle landed in the ruins of the capital city. The ramp lowered, and figures walked out. They were shorter than the harvesters. They had soft skin and strange flat faces with eyes that looked straight ahead. They moved with a confidence that the refugees did not understand. One of them, a young woman with dark skin and kind eyes, approached a group of children who were hiding behind a broken wall. She knelt down to their level. She made a sound with her mouth that might have been meant to be soothing. "It is okay," the translator on her suit said. "You are safe now. We are here to help." The children stared at her. Their species had never seen a human before. They had only heard the stories. The monsters from the Death World. The predators that the Concord had been afraid to contact. But this creature in front of them did not look like a monster. It looked tired. It looked worried. It looked like it genuinely cared whether they lived or died. One of the children, a small female no bigger than a human toddler, took a hesitant step forward. The human woman slowly, carefully, opened her arms. The child ran into them, and on that broken world, surrounded by the debris of the first real victory against the harvesters, a predator held a prey animal's child and made soft sounds of comfort while the child cried. The war was not over. It had barely begun. But something had changed in the galaxy that day. Something that could never be taken back. The prey had found their hunters, and the hunters had decided to love them. The war went on for 3 years. 3 years of battles and rescues and desperate last stands. 3 years of human ships jumping from crisis to crisis, always arriving just in time, always fighting harder than anyone thought possible. And 3 years of the Concord watching their saviors and trying to understand them. Ambassador Kjelveth had been assigned as the official liaison to the human forces. It was her job to coordinate between the Concord and their strange allies. It was also her job to write reports about human behavior, to help her people understand these creatures they had invited into their space. The reports got stranger. Every month, she watched humans mourn their dead with rituals that seemed almost religious. They would gather around the bodies of fallen soldiers, speak words of praise, sometimes cry openly. Then they would carefully prepare the bodies and send them back to Earth. Every single body. No matter how dangerous the recovery. No matter how many living soldiers had to risk their lives to retrieve the dead. Why? She asked Admiral Okonkwo once. They are dead. They cannot know whether their bodies are recovered or not. Okonkwo looked at her with those strange forward-facing eyes. Their families know, she said. Their friends know. We know. We bring them home because they earned it. Because leaving them behind would mean forgetting what they gave for us. She paused. And because someday it might be us. And we want to know that someone will come for us too. Kjelveth did not fully understand, but she added it to her report. She watched humans joke with each other between battles. They made sounds called laughter, which seemed to indicate happiness, but sometimes appeared even when they were clearly afraid or sad. They gave each other nicknames. They shared food from their homeworld, Strange substances that smelled wrong and looked unappetizing but that humans seemed to treasure. She watched them fight. And that was the strangest thing of all. Humans in battle were terrifying. They moved with a focus and intensity that made Kielveth's instincts scream at her to run. They killed efficiently, ruthlessly, without hesitation. They pushed through injuries that would have incapacitated any Concord species. They seemed to feel no fear, or at least not the kind of fear that stopped you from acting. But then the battle would end, and those same terrifying creatures would carefully treat wounded enemies. They would search rubble for survivors. They would carry injured civilians to safety, singing soft songs to keep them calm. On Morith Prime, Kielveth watched a human soldier clear a harvester stronghold. He moved through the corridors like death itself, his weapon never missing, his movements precise and lethal. 17 harvested drones fell to him in less than 10 minutes. Then he found a room full of gatherer children. The young ones had been captured by the harvesters, probably for study. They were terrified, shaking, crying in the way gatherer young did. The soldier stopped. He put his weapon down. He knelt in front of the children and made his voice soft. "Hey," he said. "Hey, it is okay. The bad things are gone. I got them all. You are safe now." One of the children, still shaking, reached toward him. The soldier carefully, gently, picked the child up. He held it against his chest, making quiet sounds, rocking slightly back and forth. The other children gathered around him, pressing close, seeking comfort from the creature who had just killed 17 enemies in the next room. Kielveth watched from the doorway. A report that night simply said, "I do not understand them. I am not sure I ever will." She requested a meeting with Admiral Okonkwo to discuss her confusion. The Admiral agreed, and they sat together in Okonkwo's quarters, drinking a human beverage called tea. "I have watched your people for 3 years," Kielveth said, "and I still cannot make sense of you. You kill with such efficiency. You seem to enjoy battle in a way that frightens me. And then you rescue children and weep when they thank you. You keep trophies from dead enemies, but also keep pictures of dead friends. You talk about honor and also talk about revenge. You are contradictions." Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. "My grandmother came from a place called Nigeria," she said. "When she was young, her village was attacked by bad men. They killed her parents and her brothers. She was rescued by soldiers, men who had probably done terrible things in other places. Those soldiers carried her through dangerous territory for days. They took turns protecting her. They sang her songs when she was scared." She paused. "One of them died saving her life. His name was Sergeant Adebayo. She named my mother after him." Kielveth waited. "We are not contradictions," Okonkwo said. "We are complete. The violence and the compassion are not opposites in humans. They come from the same place. We kill because we love. We destroy what threatens the things we care about. The rage and the tenderness are 2 sides of the same feeling." "That is terrifying," Kielveth said. "Yes," Okonkwo agreed. "But it is also why you called us. You needed someone who could love hard enough to kill for it." The war continued, but something else was happening too. Human soldiers, between battles, began teaching Concord civilians. Not combat, mostly. Most herbivore species could not physically fight like humans. But they taught other things. How to stand firm when you are afraid. How to refuse to give up. How to protect what matters even when the odds are against you. The Theron learned to organize evacuation routes that allowed some of them to fight rearguard actions while others escaped. The gatherers learned to use their massive cargo ships as shields for civilian transports. The Mulver, a species of small flying creatures, learned to serve as scouts and messengers, darting through battle zones too fast for harvesters to target. They were not becoming predators. They were becoming something else. Something that had never existed in the galaxy before. They were becoming people who chose to fight. When the Gather a Homeworld was threatened, something remarkable happened. The young ones, traditionally considered too fragile for anything but hiding, refused to hide. They stood on the defensive walls alongside human marines. They could not fire weapons, but they carried ammunition. They relayed communications. They dragged wounded soldiers to safety. A harvester commander, reviewing recordings of the battle, reportedly asked, "What are they doing?" "They are prey." "Why are they not running?" The answer came from a captured drone's final transmission, before a young gatherer smashed it with a rock. "They are not prey anymore." Kielveth included that story in her final report. She wrote, "The humans did not make us predators. That would be impossible. But they reminded us that even prey animals have teeth. They showed us that those teeth can be used for more than eating. They taught us that we could choose to bite back." She sent the report to the Concord Council. Then she went to find Admiral Okonkwo to thank her for something she could not quite put into words. The final battle happened above Earth. The harvesters had learned from 3 years of defeat. They had gathered every ship they had left, every resource, every weapon. They had studied human tactics and human psychology, and they had reached a simple conclusion: kill the predators at their source, destroy Earth, and the invasion would end. The harvester fleet that jumped into human space was the largest the galaxy had ever seen. Over 1,000 ships, each one massive, each one loaded with weapons designed specifically to counter human tactics. They emerged from faster-than-light travel like a cloud of metal locusts, blocking out the stars. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched them come. Behind her, Earth floated in space, blue and green and fragile. 8 billion people. Every human who had ever lived had lived on that small world. Every story, every song, every dream humanity had started there. She was not going to let it fall. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we are receiving signals from Concord space. Multiple fleets are reporting in." Okonkwo frowned. "What fleets?" "We did not request reinforcements." "They are not reinforcements, Admiral." "They are." The officer paused, checking her readings. "They are everyone?" The first ships began appearing at the edge of the system. Theran vessels, their graceful forms modified with human weapon systems. Gathera cargo ships, their hulls reinforced with armor plating. Mulver scout craft by the hundreds. Ships from a dozen species, from 100 worlds, all jumping into human space. Ambassador Kielveth's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Okonkwo, the Concord stands with humanity. You came to save us when we called. We will not let you face this alone." Okonkwo felt something in her chest that she could not name. Pride, maybe. Or gratitude. Or something bigger than both. "Ambassador," she said, "your ships are not designed for combat. You will take heavy losses." "Yes," Kielveth agreed. "We know. We have decided that some things are worth dying for. You taught us that." The human fleet and the Concord fleet merged together. They were not a perfect fighting force. The Concord ships were slower, weaker, less maneuverable. But they could serve as screens, absorbing fire that would otherwise hit human vessels. They could carry supplies and rescue survivors. They could stand together. Admiral Okonkwo opened a channel to all ships, human and alien alike. "This is Admiral Okonkwo to all fleet elements. Today we defend not just Earth, but everyone who stands with us. Not just humanity, but what humanity means. We did not ask to be your saviors. We are not your gods. We are your friends. And friends do not let friends fight alone." The battle began. It lasted 3 days. 3 days of chaos and fire and death. Harvester weapons tore through Concorde vessels like paper. Human ships burned and broke and kept fighting. The Gatherer hospital ships moved through the battlefield, ignoring the danger, pulling wounded from damaged vessels regardless of species. A Theron fighter pilot, her ship crippled, aimed her vessel at a Harvester command ship and accelerated. Just before impact, she broadcast a message that the translators rendered as, "This is what you taught us. This is what we are now." A human marine team boarded a Harvester dreadnought alongside a squad of Mulver scouts. The tiny flying aliens could not fight, but they could see in the dark, could navigate the twisted corridors of the enemy ship, could spot dangers before they became lethal. When the Marine commander lost his arm to a Harvester blade, a Mulver carried the detonator to the ship's reactor core while the remaining humans held the line. The explosion took out the dreadnought and 3 escort vessels. On the second day, the Harvester command vessel broadcast a message. "Why do you resist? You cannot win. We are more than you. We have always been more than you." Admiral Okonkwo responded personally. "You are right. You are more than us. You have more ships, more weapons, more resources. But you do not have something we have. And what is that? Each other." The battle turned on the third day. The Harvesters, expecting humans to fight alone, had not prepared for allied species serving as shields and decoys. They had not expected prey animals to sacrifice themselves so predators could strike killing blows. They had not understood that the galaxy had changed. When the final Harvester command ship broke apart, its last transmission echoed across the system. "We acknowledge Superior Pack. We withdraw. Territories claimed by Earth Alliance are respected." The Harvesters fled, not just from Earth, but from the galaxy. Whatever they were, wherever they went, they carried the memory of what they had found here. A universe that should have been full of easy prey, but instead contained something they had never encountered before. Family. In the aftermath, the Concorde offered humanity everything: territory, resources, a permanent seat at the head of the governing council, power beyond anything any species had ever held. Admiral Okonkwo, speaking for Earth, declined. "We did not come here to rule," she said. "We came because you asked for help. The Harvesters are gone. Our job is done." Ambassador Kjelveth stared at her. "But you could have everything. You could reshape the galaxy. You could be gods among us." Okonkwo smiled, carefully keeping her teeth hidden. "That is not what gods do, Ambassador. Not real ones. Real gods help you find your own strength, and then they step back. They let you grow." She extended her hand. Kjelveth, after a moment, reached out with her own manipulator and grasped it. "We will be watching, though," Okonkwo said. "From a distance, quietly, and if anyone ever threatens your children again, you will come back. We will always come back." The human fleet withdrew to Earth, leaving behind training programs and defensive technologies, and something more valuable than either: the knowledge that the prey animals of the galaxy were not alone anymore. That somewhere in the darkness between stars, there were predators who had chosen to protect instead of hunt. 100 years later, a young Theron female asked her grandfather what humans were really like. The old male, who'd fought beside them in the final battle, thought for a long time before answering. "They are what happens when the universe creates something that refuses to die," he said. "They are terrible and beautiful. They are terrible and beautiful. They are the answer to prayers we were too afraid to speak out loud." He looked up at the stars, toward a distant yellow sun that was too far away to see. "They are the wolves who chose to guard the sheep. And we are lucky, so very lucky, that when we screamed into the darkness, they were the ones who heard us." He held his granddaughter close, and together they watched the stars. "Somewhere out there, Humanity went about its daily life, building, creating, loving, fighting, being human. And the galaxy, for the first time in its long history, felt safe, not because the predators were gone, but because the right predators had decided to stay.